Yeah, what's up, peeps? TopVolsion77 here today to talk about the growing niche of Sceptile and Pokebilities. And as I've said many times, Pokebilities is my favorite metagame. That's one of the reasons why most of my videos recently have been related to Pokebilities in one way or another. So, why is Sceptile so good in Pokebilities? Well, for one, you may be a bit confused when looking at its stats. Its HP is mediocre, defenses aren't the best, its special attack is okay, physical attack not that good. Speed is amazing though. So what makes it so good? Well, specifically, its combination of abilities. Now, Sceptile will already be outspeeding most things in the Pokebilities meta. The only Pokemon that you will not outspeed that is common is a Jolly full speed Chinchino or Ambipom. Those are the only common Pokemon, and Swellow, but those are the only common Pokemon that will outspeed Sceptile. So Timid is still a very important nature to have, just so you can outspeed two of those things normally, because Swellow still outspeeds Sceptile, even if Sceptile has a timid nature. So you may be like, okay, there's some pretty big threats in there. So why is Sceptile, like, why is it that Sceptile is good, even though it gets pretty ran over by three sizable threats? And it's mainly because the way it uses its abilities. Now you see, the abilities right here. Overgrow. If it's at 1/3 of its HP or less, the Pokemon's attacking stat, or both the attack and the special attack, is 1.5 times, but only if they use a Grass-type move. And Unburden doubles the speed on held item loss. A good way to abuse the ability Unburden is by using a Pinch Berry, which a Pinch Berry basically, it will heal something. If it's something like the Citrus Berry, if it's something like a Pecha Berry, for example, it will heal a status condition. But for Sceptile, because its special attack stat isn't the best berry to run for Sceptile is the Pitaya Berry, which boosts its special attack stage by boosted special attack by one stage when it's at 1/4 HP or less. So, if it gets to 1/4 HP with the Pitaya Berry, you get the special attack boost, you'll be in Overgrow, and you'll lose your item, making Unburden activate, which will double its speed, making sure it can outspeed essentially everything in the meta. And you may be thinking, okay, that sounds really good, but how does it get that low? Well, some of it will rely on prediction, but if you are faster than the Pokemon you're going up against, Substitute can be a really good way. Because if you just use Substitute 3 times, if you are at an even number HP, then you will already be in the range for the Pitaya Berry to activate, because you'll be at exactly 25 HP if you don't take any hazard damage or weather damage like Sandstorm. So, okay, that boosts Sceptile's special attack, gets its Grass-type moves more powerful, and boosts its speed. So what about the moveset? Substitute is the obvious one. Why not Leaf Storm? Why Giga Drain instead? Well, if you're going to be keeping Sceptile out, which is the main goal, you're trying to sweep with it, then lowering its special attack by 2 stages every single time you use Leaf Storm will be really impractical. Even if you just use it once, that's still your special attack minus 1 stage, because it lowers your special attack by 2 stages and the Pitaya Berry only boosts it by 1 stage. And because of that, Leaf Storm is kind of impractical to this set. So why Giga Drain instead of Energy Ball? Okay, the energy ball, yes, it can be nice. But at the same time, once you get down to the Pataya Berry range, you will already be in pretty bad condition. Like, you won't be able to use Substitute again, for example. You still take damage from things like Sandstorm, and if a Pokemon has Infiltrator, for example. So, Giga Drain allows you to get a lot of that HP back, while at the same time making sure that you may be able to use Substitute again. And your item was already lost if you've already gotten down to 25 HP, so you'll still be much faster, and you can get yourself down to Overgrow range repeatedly by using Substitute as much as needed, so your Giga Drains will continue to be more powerful. And Giga Drain may be a bit counterproductive at times, but at the end of the day, it's just going to be more consistent for Sceptile's longevity than Energy Ball or Leaf Storm. So those are the two main important moves. Now, some other things you could run are Leech Seed if you want to do a Subseed thing. You could run Protect as well if you want to do Subseed, Synthesis sometimes. But for me, I just like to fill it out with the rest of Sceptile's special attacking move pool. So, of course, Focus Blast is going to be really helpful for things like Steel types, Ice types, which are fairly common in the Pokeability, or Steel types are fairly common in the Pokeabilities metagame, and Aggron is one of the, it's a really underrated, but commonly used pick in the Pokeabilities metagame. So, if it comes in on Stealth Rock, then Focus Blast, I believe even with full HP, full Spadef, should one-shot Aggron if the Sturdy is gotten rid of. Hidden Power Electric is for flying types, and because we already have something for Steel types, so Hidden Power Fire isn't needed as much. You could run Dragon Pulse, even though the only commonly seen dragon in Pokeabilities is Kingdra. But if that's something that you're really weak to, it could be a good addition. You could run Hidden Power Ice if you want to deal with opposing grass types while still dealing with most flying types. This is just the moveset I like to run. I like to have Focus Blast for the Ferrothorns and Aggrons. I like to have Hidden Power Electric for the Pelipper's and the Gyarados. And that's the basic rundown on Sceptile's moveset. Okay, so we got that done. But why does it have a niche? Well, let me just show you some of these Pokeabilities teams that I have made. I'm just going to move them up a bit. I'm going to move the teams that are not Pokeabilities down. Okay. So, some of the good threats in Pokeabilities. Crocodile is threatened by Giga Drain. Quagsire, Lantern, threatened by Giga Drain. Cloyster, Cloyster does have a bit of a niche, just not a large one, so it is a bit gimmicky, but it can still be a threat if properly utilized. Is threatened by Giga Drain. Greninja, either Ash Greninja or Protean Greninja, threatened by Giga Drain. Golem, which is still a small niche, but still, threatened by Giga Drain. Slowbro, Slowking, threatened by Giga Drain. Quagsire, threatened by Giga Drain. Corsola, even though it's a really niche just because of Hustle, and its double grass type weakness, definitely threatened by Giga Drain. Ignore the team with the Basculin, that's just a full gimmick team. Azumarill is not really threatened by Giga Drain, but that's because of its Sap Sipper ability, as you can see right there. So you'll want to be careful against Azumarills. You'll want to get rid of those first. Jellicent, threatened by Giga Drain. That is so many threats that are threatened by Giga Drain. You can deal with so many good Pokemon. And those are just in the teams I have registered. Like, I have a whole 200 something Pokemon threat list registered. And Sceptile, just the grass type in general, deals with a lot of them. But Overgrow Sceptile with +1 attack is going to be extremely helpful for a lot of those threats, which is why Sceptile's niche in the metagame is much larger than some of the other niches like Cloyster or Golem and all the reckless Pokemon. But at the same time, even if it is a larger niche, it is still a niche. Even after +1 special attack and full special attack investment, Sceptile still struggles to OHKO a few threats, and unaware Pokemon like Clefable are always going to cause trouble. I'm not sure if this is true, but I think Giga Drain just barely OHKOs Bibarel, so if it uses an Amnesia, then none of the attacks that Sceptile will land, not even a +1 Leaf Storm, will OHKO Bibarel, because, one, unaware ignores the Pataya Berry boost, and if it uses Amnesia, even if Sceptile's an Overgrow, like, unaware ignores the boost, and then if it sets up an Amnesia, because of Simple, it will have +4 special defense instead of +2 special defense. If you're questioning Moody, Moody was disabled as an ability for the metagame because it's banned from all tiers other than Anything Goes in normal Smogon play. So, Sceptile definitely can be dealt with. Like, let's check these Pokemon and see how many can check Sceptile. Arcanine, Staraptor, Galvantula, Yanmega, Heatran, Bronzong, Clefable because of Unaware, Snorlax, even with Focus Blast, it's still not going to be threatening Snorlax that much. Raticate can threaten an OHKO if you are burned because Hustle plus Guts makes his attack higher than Mega Mewtwo X's for some reason. Moltres, Zapdos, Ursaring, I believe, can threaten to OHKO it, even with Facade, not just Ice Punch. Swellow. Like, there are a lot of things that also put Sceptile in check, even though Sceptile can put other things in check. And that's what makes it a niche, even if it is one of the larger ones. Like, some of the Pokemon you see dominating the Pokebilities tier: Clefable, Bronzong, Lantern, Reuniclus, Aggron, Snorlax, Ursaring. Like, so many of these Pokemon, even though a lot of them are also weak to Sceptile, Sceptile is balanced out by the fact that so much counters it as well. Like, even a Swoobat could be used to counter Sceptile just because Unaware plus Simple. Like, Sceptile's good, but it has to be used in the right hands. You have to know how to properly utilize this Pokemon if you want to do well with it. Which is why a lot of people don't use it in the Pokebilities metagame. Now, you may be thinking, what about the other starters, huh? Don't they have some good play with their abilities? Some of them, yes. A lot of them, no. Like, Typhlosion, for example. Most of the time you just want to Eruption spam, which you won't really be able to do if you're trying to utilize Blaze, especially because of the Stealth Rock weakness. Charizard is probably the best example of the Pokemon of another starter that can utilize its ability in combination very well, like Sceptile, but definitely not to the same degree, because its speed tier is still worse. Like, it'll get outsped by a few of the fast threats in the metagame. It will speed tie with a lot of them. So even if you have something like a Slackberry, for example, it will still be outsped by a decent number of things if they have +1 speed. But even then, like, if you're running a Belly Drum set, you can't use And I shouldn't say you can't use Belly Drum if you come in on Stealth Rock, but what I'm trying to say is Stealth Rock takes away half your health. The most viable Charizard set is a Solar Power set with Fire Punch instead of Flare Blitz, so you're not damaging yourself. Yes, Charizard has Roost, but you want more than just Fire Punch, because if Sub-Select Belly Drum is the best Charizard set for Pokebilities, because you're getting the Blaze boost and you're getting the Solar Power boost, but then you're losing even more health with the Solar Power, so you'll have to have some form of healing, and if Stealth Rocks are on the field, Charizard's just not worth sending out, so it has to have Hazard support, which is something that Sceptile often does not need to have, and you see the problem there. Charizard takes way too much, it takes way too much unnecessary measures. Wait, sorry. There are too many measures that need to be prevented or checked so Charizard can do what it needs to do and put in work for its team. Whereas Sceptile doesn't need nearly that many. Then you have some starters that have pretty mediocre hidden abilities, like Samurott and Torterra have shell armor. Now, I'm not doing this to shit on the other starters. I'm just saying all this to get across the point that none of the other starters have a niche like Sceptile does in Pokebilities. Sceptile is fairly good if used properly, but still has its weaknesses. When the other Pokemon are really risky and oftentimes do not yield many results. Charizard is what comes closest, but at the same time, it's still pretty bad in the metagame, simply because Solar Power also harms it, along with the fact that Belly Drum and Substitute, no matter what Pokemon it's going to be used on, are always going to be a risk. Then you have Stealth Rock combined with Solar Power, Belly Drum, and Salackberry, along with the fact that Charizard pretty much has to be run on a Sun team most of the time, which automatically makes it even more niche, because other than a few grass types that have things like Leaf Guard plus Chlorophyll, there are not many good Sun abusers in Pokebilities, which is why it is so difficult to make Charizard work, and it's not that difficult to make Sceptile work. So, Sceptile is easily the best of the starters in Pokebilities, other than Greninja, even though Greninja only has there's a Greninja with just Battle Bond, and then there's a Greninja with Protean and Torrent, because having both Battle Bond and Protean would be overpowered, so they decided to just separate them, thankfully. But other than Greninja and probably Superior, Sceptile is the best of the starters in the Pokebilities meta, and if you know how to use it, if you're smart enough, if you know how to make predictions, if you know how to keep it in, if you know how to abuse the Giga Drain and Substitute stuff for longevity, I would definitely suggest at least taking a look at Sceptile. Anyways, guys, this has been Typhlosion787, and I'm out of the house. Bye!